Hello, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to Young Martin's Reels. Today we're going to be working on this ABU Garcia C508GLX spinning reel, and it's got a few issues. This is one of the ones I picked up from Ken. He asked me to do so I could use them for my videos. He'll get them back serviced, and I don't have to try to turn around and sell them. So it's a win-win situation for both of us. Okay. The only thing that's really wrong with this is that the bale does not want to trip. It ends up, if you saw it just then, it has a tendency to want to stay up. I have another reel that's very similar to this that I'm planning to do soon, and it may end up with a bale conversion on it. This one is not, because this isn't my reel. So we're going to clean this reel up, get it serviced, and get it back out there performing. You can see it's been rubbing right here. So we're gonna try to adjust that a little bit, see what we can do to maybe see if we can keep that from happening. It's a nice big reel. I want to comment to a lot of you guys out there who just watch the videos. If you watch the videos but don't look at the comments, you're missing out on a lot. There are some very, very knowledgeable people out there and some very keen-eyed people who notice things in the comments. So if you'll go back and read a lot of the comments on my videos, you will find a lot of really good information, especially when it deals with these spinning reels. Chris is really good at providing information on these old spinning reels. ABU Garcia is not his thing. His thing is more the Mitchells, the Luxors, and the pins. But he still has a vast wealth of knowledge that he puts into those comments. So if you guys are missing out on the comments, you're missing out on a lot. So let's get started on this ABU Garcia C508GLX reel. We're going to start off by taking the spool off. And when I got this reel, you could not turn the drag at all. I loosened it up and it still wouldn't. And I actually had to, turn it really, really hard, and finally it popped. And after that, it was fine. So it was stuck internally right here. And if you look at the rust inside there, you'll begin to get an idea of why. So we're going to clean that up before we get done. Okay, we've got the spool off. We want to take the handle off. This handle is going to come off on this side over here. There we go. And it slides out. Yeah, we're going to clean that up a little bit. Put a little lube on there. Okay. Now, this reel actually, the cog on here actually comes off fairly easy, but we don't need to take it off because this side plate does not fit up underneath there. So we're going to start off by breaking these loose and getting into the side plate. Okay, I'm going to start off by breaking them loose with my common screwdriver, and then I'm going to unscrew them with Phillips. Okay, side covers off. Okay, this has a bushing instead of a bearing. This is another one of these reels that isn't real pretty inside. It's not real bad, but it's got some pitting and some marring. It appears anyway. We'll find out when we get a little further. Okay, we're going to rotate this around until we can get. Let's see if this main gear will come out. It does not want to come out, so we're going to hold it in place so that it actually makes contact up here, and roll it around until we get our our crosswind block to come down. It looks like it's going to be one of these. Nope, it's got only one screw. All right, the one we did the other day had two screws, and one of them really gave us a fit coming out. Let's take this one. Oh, it's already loose. Oh, let me show you something. This is something I noticed. See how much free plate is in there? This reel is wearing out, but notice the screw moving in the slot. That's because this was loose to begin with. So I'll take that screw out. On the plus side, that means that this axle shaft will come out of this one. All right, we're going to slide the axle out. Now we can pull the main gear out, like so. And it appears to be doing okay. That done, Now that makes it easier to take this out. I don't believe that's I think it's going to be bigger than a half, so we're going to need my socket set. And I actually do have a ratchet that goes on for my sockets. Okay, that's loose already. That made it easier. Everything in this reel seems to have been loose to begin with. Okay, we're going to pull the nut off. That should allow us to take the rotor off. Set the rotor over to the side. And you notice that our crosswind block and our crosswind gear have both fallen out. They fell out of this side over here. I should have probably taken them out to begin with. Now we're going to take these two screws out. Okay, one of these screws held this device right here. See how it's mounted right here? And that's the screw that goes down by the handle. We want to remember that. Then we've got our keeper. And now the bearing should lift out, and it does. And very dirty, but it does not appear to be damaged. Okay, that brings us over to this side. Nothing left there. All right, I'm going to scrub all these parts up, and when I come back, they'll be nice. Oh, yep, when I come back, they'll be nice and clean, and we can start the reassembly process. I don't plan to waste a lot of time showing you guys how to scrub parts. I think most of you have a pretty good understanding of what I do, though, is the parts do get sprayed down with WD-40, and I was starting to run low on my spare can, so I did go today and pick up another can, and I almost picked up a different product, but when I did, I went ahead and popped it open for just a second and gave it a little sniff, and that stuff, I didn't like the smell of it, so I went back to the WD-40. It was a lot cheaper. And let's see if we have we have a washer right here that goes directly underneath this rotor, so we need to remember that in the cleanup. Okay, this Bale has an added feature that I'm not used to seeing, and when I first saw it I thought, what in the world is that? And then I read on the side right here, it says it has a folding bale. Okay, when you get to this right here, if you look, there's a little button, and you can take that button and push it down like so, and the bale will fold down like that so it doesn't get bent when you're storing it. Flip it up, there you go. Okay, you just lift up gently, push that in, there you go. This is binding, so we are going to be taking it apart. I normally take them apart anyway, so I can show you guys how they are. However, I do not recommend that you take them apart. Actually, we may not take this one apart. Okay, it's got a C-clip. Okay, so there is no screw holding this together. This is held together by a C-clip. It's actually turning much freer. Again, I'm going to recommend that you not take this apart. We will probably take it apart on this video, but I'm going to say, please don't do it. It makes a mess. It makes it difficult. We have lots of clean parts now, but this is one that hasn't been scrubbed yet or taken apart. And I don't know if you can see it very well, but there's a C-clip right here, and there's another one on this side right here. And we're going to take those off, but first we're going to take this screw out right here. At least that's our plan. See if we can break it loose with the standard first. Okay. Keep everything together on that side. Bring it across and screw it back together here. There we go. That allows the roller to be lubricated when we go to do that. All right, let's see if we can take this C-clip off on this. So first off, let's see if this will remove. It does not. Okay, so we're going to leave that attached, and we're going to go ahead and pop out this C-clip on this side over here. You got to be careful not to lose it. Don't know if you can see it very well in the video. And I took it apart. I'm going to snap it back on for a second because it was around the other side trying to get it to rotate around to the outside edge so it can come out. There we go. Okay, there's the C-clip out. With that out, this pin should come out. All right. And yes, there's a lot of grit inside there. Normally, I don't believe that this should have to come out. Okay, this is our spring for our trip, appears. There seems to be a lot of tension on it. There we go, it goes that way. Okay, there's our trip lever. That's what flips the bale back over. Underneath here, we should be able to find the rest of that assembly. Pull this off. There we go, there's the lever. Okay, I don't see any point in taking that off. I think it can be cleaned adequately by anybody, and anybody who needs to put it back on, I'm going to show you right here. Okay, this spring that operates this is attached right here in this corner, and it comes around this screw and attaches right here. So that when this is activated, it just moves over like that. All right, I don't see any point in taking that any further apart. Even if you've taken it apart, you can see how it goes together there. So we're going to leave that together, and I'm going to scrub that clean. Okay, let's go over to the business end of this. This is the money-making side over here with the spring button that allows you to fold it down. This is still kind of gritty. All right, so we're going to take the C-clip off on this side now as well. And I'm going to rotate that around so that it's coming out towards this opening. When I took the other one off, it got up against this wall down here and didn't want to come out. So this is all dark and difficult to see. Maybe on the video it's coming out nice and clear, but in my eyes it's very dark and hard to see. Okay. There we go. That unsnapped it out of there. I'm going to bring it over here. There it is. And now this piece here should be able to work its way out, which it is coming out slowly, but it is spring loaded, so be careful. There we go. All right, that's got that out. And there's the spring. It holds that push button. So it just sits in there once it fits in. Okay, we're gonna take this side off now. And this should reveal the plate on this side, like so. And there is our spring and how the spring installs. Ooh, there's a lot of sand in here. And that's why we go ahead and take it apart. I recommend not doing that. It's difficult to get them back together if you don't know, especially if you're at it for your first time. I recommend against it. Okay, I'm gonna scrub this up, and when we come back, I'm gonna put it back together. All right. I've taken and cleaned up the parts now, gotten the sand and grit out of them, or at least most of it anyway. I think I've got most of it. And what we're gonna do is start putting this back together. So we're gonna start off with this spring right here. This spring is going to fit in right here, like so. Okay, that's your tension spring for your bale. And, all right. The next part that's gonna, well, let's go ahead and let's put some grease on that. Under it so that it can slide. Put a little grease here. We're gonna put a little in this hole over here, right there, because that's where our spring for that release is gonna go for your folding bale assembly. So we'll put the spring, the small end, into this hole right here. Set this over here. Then we're gonna take this little button with its spring on it, set it in right there. Now, let's go ahead and put this cover back on so that it fits down in there. And it's going to hold that spring in so the spring can't pop loose when we go to put the bale back on. Next, we're going to take this piece, and I'm going to oil this. I'm not going to grease it. I'm going to oil it because it's a rotating surface, and rotating surfaces tend to like oil better than grease, just because it allows them to spin better. Takes some of the friction out of it. All right, now we're going to take this, and we have to get this spring, I believe, lined up in this hole right here. Get the hole lined up in the spring, like so. Then we're going to push this button down right here so that this will slide over the top of it. Okay, that done, we're going to take our pin and get the pin to go back through the hole. And I'm way off the hole. There we go. Like so. Now, if you've got that where it belongs, should hold tension against it right there. Okay. And I'm not going to trip it until I put the C-clip back on it. So I'll set the C-clip on like so. And I'm going to take my screwdriver. I'm going to cover it with my thumb there, so that if in case it popped off, it didn't go flying all the way across the room. Now that that's on there, now the bale should trip easily, like so. And the button should work if you wish to push it down and allow the bale to fold down out of the way. Okay. Now let's see about putting the other side back on. Okay, it's been cleaned. And we're going to put a little oil on here. Now this one has got this trip assembly over here. It's going to go this way. So I believe that we're going to want this foot right here to be on this other side of that bale, or that trip, like so, so that it can flip it back and forth. We'll find out in just a minute if I got that idea right. Okay, put the pin in the hole, like so. Okay, now when this flips back like this, it holds until... Nope, I got it backwards. Okay. That's why you examine this. All right, this trip lever is going to be spring-loaded back over this way. And this foot has got to be on the other side of it, like that. Okay, that way when it comes down here, the lever will trip it back. Okay. And I believe I have that correct. But before we put that in, let's go ahead and put our cover plate back on. And it's not going to hurt to put a little grease right along this, because that's going to hit the inside of this door right here as it comes across. So put a little bit of grease on it so it doesn't stick against the door. Snap it down, put the screw in. Okay, we're going to trip this over this way so that when we set this on, that foot's going to be on the other side of it. And now put our pin in, like so. All right. And now we're going to come back and put this other C-clip on the other side. Okay, that's in. Okay, we're going to add a drop of oil here. And we're going to come back to here. When we take this screw out of here, this washer is going to want to fall off. And we see that we have this bushing. Well, right now the only thing on that bushing is some WD-40. And WD-40 does not last long as a lubricant. So we put a drop of oil, put it back on, put our washer back on. The washer has a cupped side, And the bearing fits into that cup, and then it fits over here onto the bale. And let's tighten down the screw. Now the bearing can roll, and let's see what we have. All right. Let's see about assembling the rest of this reel. I'll start off by greasing the pinion gear. Now I've become more sparing on my grease on other items, but when it comes to that pinion gear, I try to go ahead and grease it up pretty well. All right, there's gonna be a collar right here. That collar goes on the pinion first. Then our bearing is going to go on. Now the bearing, if you look at it, has a open side and a partially shielded side. The partially shielded side is going to go to the outside. We're going to set that in place, and we are going to oil it. Now I took this and cleaned it up real good, got all the grease and stuff out of it, and it spins very freely now. Okay, I got interrupted by a phone call, but we're back to this. Okay, then we're going to slide this pinion gear back inside with the bushing, or with the bearing on it. Okay, and if you look right here, this is your anti-reverse right here, and right now it's not doing anything. Why not? It acts as though I've not. Oh, okay. The anti-reverse on this lever is activated by this part right here on the main gear. Okay, that right inside there fits into this lever right here, and when this starts to back up, it moves that lever over, and that locks your anti-reverse in. All right, I had forgotten about that. All right, so that's in. Let's go ahead and reinstall the cover plate here, retainer, with this clip. And I haven't puzzled this clip out yet. I'm not sure what that purpose is. Well, we don't always have to know every part of what the reel does. They pretty much put everything in for a reason, though. So let's put it back just like we found it. All right, now this bearing lock is going to lock that bearing in so it can't come out. This has to be a brake of some type. But I swear I don't see what it does. Oh, okay. This is your trip lever, okay, for your trip over here. This is your trip ramp for your trip lever right here. Okay, so that when this goes up and this trips, it will pull that down. That's what that ramp is for. All right, that's got that in place. Let's go ahead and put this on. I'm going to put a thin coating of grease here. Not that this spins. I'm putting it on there more as a preventative so that the rotor can be easily removed in the future. Before this one goes on, there is this shim collar that goes on that lifts. It's a spacer that lifts the rotor up. Okay, we're going to set this. Nope, no way to get it backwards. Okay. It can only go on two ways, and either way is right. Slide that on. Take our 14mm nut. And this has a round side and a flat side. We're going to put the flat side down so that it kind of bites. Okay. All right. spins easily. And I'm not even going to do that in fast forward. I'm going to leave that in standard speed so you guys can see that. That's really nice. For an inexpensive reel, that is a really nice, easily spinning bearing. All right, that's great. Okay, next to go in is going to be our crosswind gear. It's going to go down here in the bottom, and it gets grease in the bottom in this center hole, because it's going to turn on this post right here. It's going to sit down over that post. Also, we want grease on the faces of the gear because it has to ride against the body here, and we want it to slide easily. So we're going to set that in. Let's go ahead and put some on the teeth of the gear. We don't want to slather it on, but I'm going to make sure it's greased. Then we're going to set that down inside there, like so. Then we're going to come back and put grease on the face of the gear here. Next to go in is the crosswind block, and it's going to go in with the screw hole to the rear. But we're going to put some grease inside the slot on that as well. Set it in place. Then we're going to do our main gear. This gear here is what's going to drive the crosswind block. So let's go ahead and put grease on that. And now this plastic lever here, see this hole right here, the slot, that's going to go right there on that pin. Now it's got a window in this gear right here. We're going to set that window so that it looks right down in between that gear, so that when we set it in, we can set that tab right there in between that. That's what's going to drive our anti-reverse. Let's go ahead now. We don't want a bunch of grease on the inside of it, but we do want grease on the teeth. It's not going to take vast quantities. There we go. Now, when we go to sit this in here, remember what I said, we got to watch that window and watch that arm and make sure that that arm fits right inside those legs of that. Let's see here. Let's make sure. Yeah, put it in anti-reverse mode. Line it up and slide it in. Now, we're not going to try to turn this or wind it or anything else until we put the side case on, because otherwise what's going to happen is we're trying to turn this, it's going to move that gear. See how it moves, shifts side to side? We don't want that. It's just going to cause the gears to bind. Next thing to go in is going to be the main gear, or sorry, the next to go in is going to be the axle shaft. Slide it in. It doesn't hurt to rotate it a little bit as you're sliding it through so that oil can go into the passages. And now we want to line, there's a flat in that crosswind block, and we want the flat, the axle shaft to fit into that. There you go. And I missed it altogether. No, I didn't. We were fine. We were in it. Okay. Wiggle it around. Make sure it goes in. And now slide it down. Now, see how that hole's not lined up yet? We want that hole to line up on that crosswind block. Right there. Now, get that hole lined up. Okay. Set your crosswind gear in here so that the post is to the rear. Set your crosswind block in with this screw hole to the back, but also make sure, and I did it the first time, but then I didn't make sure that it stayed that way as I put it together. So this post has got to fit inside this slot right here. So set that in there. Now we're going to set the gear in. We'll set this gear, and we need to make sure it's this little window right here or this little white piece fits inside this window. And when we go to set it in, we're going to look through the window at this post right here and make sure that it fits in. Like that. Once that's done, we're going to come through with our, we're going to oil up our axle shaft, and then we're going to put this flat right here on the top because it's going to fit right up here where the screw goes. So slide it in and make sure that it fits into the crosswind block, but do not let that crosswind block pop off that post like I did before. You didn't see that, but I'm telling you, I did it. And then when I went to rotate it around, it jammed everything up. I don't really hide my mistakes here. If I made it, somebody else can make it, so I tell you about it so you don't make that same mistake. Put the screw in. Tighten it down. And we don't want to wind this yet until we put this case on. I went ahead, since it's already been back together once, I lubed this post. Let's go, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and put some grease in anyway. I normally just oil those, but this is an old reel that's been around a long time. So let's go ahead and put a little grease on there. Snap this down. Once it's on, you can hold it in place and do what I tried to do a while ago, which was rotate it and make sure that it runs up and down. All right, let's see if our anti-reverse works. There we go. Good. We're gonna turn that back off for the moment, and we're gonna go ahead and shoot these 4 screws back into the side cover. Now, because they are going into this plastic, composite, whatever kind of body this is, they're not going into metal. I'm gonna go ahead and add a dab of oil onto the threads of each of those screws, so it'll help them come back out later in the future, and it'll also help them go in a little bit too. I'll wipe off the case a little bit there. Next thing we're going to do is put the handle back on. Now, I've scrubbed it up a little bit, but it doesn't hurt to add some oil. I'm going to put a little bit down in the handle. There we go. And we're going to slide this handle back on, like so. Next comes the handle screw on the end. All right, that's got that part of it done. Now let's go ahead and knock out this spool. I'm going to take out the spring that holds in the drag washers. Let's take these out. We're going to have to sand or file or something on this one. Yeah, these are really rusted up. And like I said, this drag would not turn at all when I first got this reel. Wow. Okay, those are fiber drag washers. I'm going to spray this down, let it soak for a minute, and scrub it down. But in the meantime, I've got to see if I can get these guys apart. I believe there's another fiber washer on stuck to the other side of that. There he is. But you can see why it is that the drag had become non-functional. Okay, so there's those 3, believe it or not, those are fiber washers. And we have 1 eared and 2 keyed washers. I'm going to clean these up and I'll be back to you. That wasn't exactly fun. These discs, I'm not sure what these drag washers are made out of. They seem to be some kind of a fiber. They definitely were stuck to the steel washers. So what we're going to do is when we put it together this time, we're going to put it together with some Cal's Universal Drag Grease. And hopefully the next person who's working on this is going to be taking better, or using it is going to be taking better care of it. And it's not going to be sitting with moisture inside this drag all the time. We're going to put some grease down in here. We're going to set in our first drag washer. And we're going to put grease on that. I'm hoping this grease is going to help protect these a little bit. Next is going to go a keyed washer. It's keyed because it has this square or rectangular key shape in the middle of it. We're going to set that. By the way, I cleaned these up on my bench grinder on the buffer wheel, and I think they cleaned up pretty nice, actually. So we're going to set this guy in there. Just a touch of grease on each of these. We want them to be able to move in there. But they don't seem to be real fibrous, but they're tough as nails. They're really hard. Next is going to be this eared washer. Slide that in. The ears go into these little slots on each side of the spool, like so. And here's one more drag washer going in, like so. I really wish I could have replaced these drag washers, but I don't know of an available source for them. And for this last one, we're going to put a little bit on the back side, a little bit on the front side. Drop it down inside there. And that is the end for the grease in the drag washers. We're going to come back and reinstall this wire spring clip like so. Make sure it locks in. Set that back onto the shaft and rotate it a little bit, and it should drop down. There we go, just like that. Take the excess grease off of there. All right, now what I did notice is it says that this is a graphite reel, so that might explain why the frame of this is still in excellent condition. It's been around, but let's see what we got here. Let's see if we got a functional drag. We do. Tighten it down some more. Good. Wow, I can't even budge that. Okay, when you set these in, once you've done it, go ahead and loosen it back up until you're ready to use it, and then adjust it down to set your drag. All right, let's back out a little bit. And see, there we go. There is the ABU Garcia C508GLX graphite reel. It's got this folding handle that allows you to fold this down, push the button, drop it down. You can also fold down this handle by rotating it around or unscrewing it a little bit, and then it will fold in like so, and that will make it much flatter so you can pack it in suitcases and such, or any other kind of storage. But I like the reel. It is made, I believe this one is made in Hong Kong, and there we go. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you didn't like the video, that's cool. Please tell me what you didn't like. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please by all means subscribe. And we will try to get notifications too. For now, that's Young Martin's Reels signing out.